Version 3.5 is going to have some incredibly stacked banners, so which one should you pull on? That's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video, starting of course with our first new character, Yangyang Xuanling. Now Yangyang Xuanling is going to be an incredibly strong Havoc DPS centered around Havoc Bane. But not just Havoc Bane, she's also going to do primarily heavy attack damage, which means that outside of the regular Havoc Bane team, Yangyang Xuanling is going to have quite a lot of teammate options. Now this isn't just a situation of, oh, you could theoretically use a character like Mortefi. No, Yangyang Xuanling at base is strong enough to where Chisa can be reasonably replaced by a character like Mortefi or Flova. And Chisa's not the only one you can replace in a team. Because Chisa and Suisui both function very well as third slot characters, that means that both Chisa and Suisui are able to be replaced by second slot characters. Chisa up until now has been functioning as a third slot, which means that doing a rotation like Chisa into Rebecca into Yangyang is completely valid. And the same goes for Suisui, because she's obviously designed to be a third slot character herself. So the fact that Yangyang has access to 4 different characters that can replace one of her premium teammates is very good. She's also not very signature weapon reliant, meaning that if you're just getting into the game, Yangyang is honestly a pretty good pull. She's most likely going to be good in both Tower and Whimpering Wastes as well, meaning that Yangyang Xuanling isn't exactly hampered by one of those either. I will say that Yangyang Xuanling is not a perfect character for new players, with her main flaw for new players being that she definitely wants to use either Chisa or Suisui. You can replace one of them, but you shouldn't replace both of them. However, I have a counter argument for that, and that is the fact that Suisui is literally the second half banner. And if you're a new player, chances are you still have quite a backlog of exploration, events, and quests that you can complete to get enough pulls to guarantee a Suisui. Suisui doesn't need her signature weapon either, which means that you can get yourself a pretty good team in just one patch. The other negative that you could mention is that in her premium team she wants to use both Chisa and Suisui. So if you're trying to use her in Tower or Whimpering Wastes, that could completely break your other negative status teams. However, like I said before, I don't think this is too big of an issue because she has so many alternative characters. You can use her with Rebecca, you can use her with Yuno, you can use her with Mortefi, and of course she also has Flova as an option. Every single noticeable issue that Yangyang Xuanling has is one that can be worked around. So I can't help but give this character an S tier rating. And that brings us to Lynae. And I'm just gonna keep it straight here. The fact that she's on her third banner and you're still wondering if you should pull her is an insane work to me. If you already have her, great, awesome, you did a great job there. Lynae is absolutely busted. And for those who don't have her yet, what are you doing? Lynae is busted! She's one of the best universal sub DPSs in the entire game. Most people would say that Lynae is mainly an Aemeath teammate, which is definitely true, but reducing her to just that is frankly disrespectful to the sheer amount of versatility she has. Almost every single DPS before the release of Zani can comfortably use Lynae. Obviously, Xiangliao can use Lynae, however, even characters like Carlotta and Camellia can use Lynae very comfortably. Lynae is also best in slots with something like Phoebe made DPS. And even if you're looking at a character like Galbrenna or Augusta, Lynae can still manage to weasel her way in, assuming that all of your other supports are taken. And then for the modern characters that Lynae is good with, obviously she's the best in slot for Toon Rupture Aemeath, but she's also the second best in slot sub DPS for Luuk, the second best in slot sub DPS for Hyuki, even having the potential to outclass Lucilla when you learn the 4 EI rotation. She was also a major upgrade towards Yuno main DPS, and with another Toon Strain character in the horizon based on the 3.5 Sonata sets, there's a pretty good chance that even in the future, Lynae is going to get more teammates. This character is ridiculous. She has so much utility that it honestly amazes me that you haven't even thought about pulling this character yet. And if you did, good job. You should probably act upon those thoughts and get the character. It's not even like she's a big commitment. She doesn't need S2 to be good or anything, and she doesn't need her weapon either, because all hail our Lord Static Mist. And if you think I'm giving this character any less than an S tier rating, then you're out of your mind. And after that Lynae glaze, let's talk about the character who I believe to be her older brother in the past, Luuk Herrsen. I mean, think about it, they've got the same hair color, they're both from the New Federation. I can't be the only one who thought this, right? Anyway, moving on, Luuk Herrsen is going to be the most disappointing character in this patch, but that's not to say he's bad. In fact, I think Luuk Herrsen is a very strong character. The sole issue with getting Luuk Herrsen in this update is because he is a nuclear bomb in a world of space lasers. I mean, come on, have you heard how much I've been glazing the other characters? Now, to keep it fair, I do want to talk about what Luuk does well first. Mainly being the fact that he is incredibly budget-friendly, being one of the most budget-friendly characters we've seen in a long time. Essentially, when talking about Luuk, almost everything I said about Xuanling also applies to Luuk. He is also very good with a 4-star sub DPS in the form of Thundah, and the only thing he really needs in terms of premium equipment is a Mornya. His signature weapon is also not a big upgrade on him, so you can rest easy and just not get his signature. In fact, pulsation bracers at R5 is less than 2% worse than his signature weapon. So if you don't know what to do with your standard pulls, you can also just R5 his standard banner gauntlets and be completely fine with that to save your limited pulls. However, I do want to talk about what makes Luuk less valuable than the other characters here. And let's just say, it's Whimpering Wastes. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, the issue is literally just entirely Whimpering Wastes. If you're trying to play this guy in Whimpering Wastes, prepare for some problems. I've talked extensively about his issues within the game mode in the past, so I don't want to repeat myself here, but it's mainly an issue of him dragging enemies into the air with him, and not being close to enemies once they respawn, and also just being a naturally very nuke-based character, added on top of the fact that Toon Strain inherently has an anti-synergy with Multi-Wave. So ultimately, Luuk is not going to be that strong in Whimpering Wastes. However, outside of that, I think Luuk is very much worth the pickup if you're a big fan. But because the competition is so strong, I genuinely can't rate him any higher than an A-. And that brings us to Suisui. Now, Suisui is a weird character to talk about. The best way to assess how good Suisui is to compare her to a different character, because Suisui essentially tries to compete entirely with Chisa's real estate. And to be brutally honest, I think she's doing a pretty good job. Now when I say that, I'm not saying it because she's straight up better, because she isn't. Rather, I'm saying it because she's incredibly balanced. When we look at all of the negative status teams, we see that the two best ones, being Hiyuki and Yangyang Xuanling, prefer Suisui, with Yangyang still also wanting to use Chisa of course. Meanwhile, Aemeath and Cardathea prefer to use Chisa. That would, in theory, give an advantage to Suisui. However, I can't in good faith say that it is truly that simple, because looking at the best in slot teams only paints half the picture. Obviously, we know for Yangyang Xuanling, both Chisa and Suisui are best in slot. However, Chisa is easier to replace because the benefits she gives are a lot less than what Suisui provides in the Yangyang team. So ultimately, Suisui does take the edge there. For Hiyuki, she also takes the edge, but she can be easily replaced by guess who? Chisa. For the Fusion Burst team, Chisa is best in slot. However, when it comes to that team, Suisui is not far behind Chisa either, and Chisa can also be easier replaced by characters like Lupa, and you also have the alternative to just play Aemeath Toon Rupture. And then for Cardathea, while Suisui isn't as close as with Aemeath, you still have Arrow Rover as competition, and Cardathea is the worst of the negative status DPSs that would want to use the either of the two anyway. So ultimately, Chisa definitely looks like she has the cards stacked against her. But again, I don't think that's the full picture either. Because think about it realistically. Aemeath, Cardathea, and Hiyuki are some of the most popular characters in Wuthering Waves history. with Yangyang most likely also going to sell incredibly well. So obviously, you're gonna run out of Chisa or Suisuis. So, in my opinion, just get both of them. I don't think it's fair to say Suisui is better than Chisa, or to say that Chisa is better than Suisui, for the very simple reason of, well, you're probably gonna need both of them anyway. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna give Suisui the same rating that I would give Chisa at the current moment, being a rating of A. And that brings us to the final character of the update, being Aemeath. I don't think we need to say much about Aemeath, because, let's be honest, most of us already have her. Aemeath is one of the best DPS characters in the game. She is currently our only main DPS who has access to Resonance mode, and this also makes Aemeath one of the most adaptable characters in the entire game. She can easily handle Toon Break Shield as well as Negative Status Shield at the same time because of her Resonance mode, and this also allows her to be incredibly efficient for your teammates. However, I don't think Aemeath is a perfect character. On release, she had the highest damage output in the entire game, but 4 patches later, and the competition has managed to catch up, thanks to characters like Sigrika, Hiyuki, and now of course Yangyang Xuanling as well. But that does not mean that Aemeath has gotten any worse. In fact, I think Aemeath has only gotten better. I just think that the overall expectation of characters has also increased. Aemeath as a character doesn't have many issues, with the only real thing I'm able to point out being the fact that she wants her premium teammates more than someone like Yangyang Xuanling or Luuk Herrsen does. But her inherent power definitely cannot be ignored, so for that reason I'm giving her a rating of A+. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think of the banners down in the comments below, and while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord server, which is linked in the description below. But that'll be all from me. Peace!